Show presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sirenitas, and as always, I'm joined by my partners, Kevin Stone and Adam Kirkshin. And tonight we have a great guest for you folks. Mike Reiss from ESPN is joining us. Mike, how are you this evening?
John, doing great. Adam, Kevin, Monday Night Football, baby, year round. I love it.
Well, thank you for taking the time, my friend. It's great to have you on. I got to say, we've been wanting to get you on for a while, so we appreciate you giving us some of your time and talking some Patriots with us tonight.
I love it. I clicked on one night. You had high school coach on, so I love what you guys are doing. You know, like you're creating like a portal where just talk can be high school, college, and it's New England football. Like I love that. And I was talking with someone today, guys. So like me, Adam and myself, we grew up in the newspaper, where we would go to games, write about the high school games, and they'd be in the newspaper the next day. And I was asking, I'm saying, where do people read about it now? And it's all, they say, all on the phone, all on the web, all what you guys are doing, going to games. I love it. So big respect from me.
Thanks, Mike. We appreciate that, Mike. And before we get started here with Mike, I do want to remind you folks out there that we are brought to you by Mortgage Right. If you're in the market to purchase your first home or your next home, give our good friend Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846. You can also email him at situate.mortgageright.com. He is available anytime, including nights and weekends. Again, give him a call at 781-254-2846, or you can email Herb at herb@mortgageright.com. Forgot that the first part. Again, like I mentioned, he and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. All right, Mike, so obviously a lot of people were talking about it this morning at work and everywhere else, the Tom Brady roast, which was on Netflix last night. And I'm going to go around here and share our thoughts on it. But what were some of your initial thoughts here? It went 3 hours last night. To me, when I look back on it, one of my opinions on it is that I think it may have brought some closure to the dynasty. I'll get into why I think that. But what were some of your thoughts on what we saw last night in this Tom Brady roast?
So for me, guys, what I was interested in is who was there and what were the dynamics like of the people there. And so I thought personally, Bill Belichick was outstanding.
So did I.
And I would say his part of the roast probably, how do I say this, spoke to me because I felt like it was funny, but sort of stayed within call it like a class, wasn't too much profanity. There was some, but it was humorous, it hit me right in delivery, tone, and sort of kept it like classy to a degree, which I know roasts, I'll be honest, guys, I'm not like a huge roast person, so it probably wasn't meant for someone like myself, but that particular part of it I did really like.
To me, I thought it was cathartic, like being able to say some of the things that they said to each other in a place where that's welcome, where that's the expected thing. I really felt like the parties involved really enjoyed it. I thought it seemed to me like they had a lot of fun with it. And that's what you have to have, that attitude in a roast like that, because everything's going to come out. And it's going to be, crass, it's going to be difficult, so I really thought it was a good thing for them.
So in fairness, I initially wasn't going to watch because I thought it might be overhyped, or we've heard so many stories from the Apple documentary to just the years and years of watching this team. And then I see Twitter start blowing up and everyone loved it, which on Twitter you don't see very often. Usually most people are kind of divided with opinions. But when I saw that, I'm like, all right, well, I gotta tune in. And I'm glad I did, because I think cathartic is the right word. Just a fan in me, it was nice to see a lot of stuff get talked about that kind of felt off limits, So I was shocked at how much stuff wasn't off limits, and they hit on everything. The Belichick video coming out of a girl's house, and just anything you can think of, nothing was off limits. So that was surprising. The one thing I'm not worried about though is does this take away from Brady night on June 12th? And obviously this is going to be much different. This was for a much different audience, but some of those moments were very, very unique moments that we might not see ever again. And I don't think you can replicate on Brady night. But in terms of the roast itself, I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to take away from Tom Brady's night because I think that that's going to be a celebration of his career. I think it's going to be a reflection of his career. I think that this was more about busting his chops and giving him a hard time. But where I think this was good for all parties involved was where it allowed them to be themselves, to bust each other's chops, to have a good time at each other's expense, and to come together. And it was nice to see because it's well documented a lot of the tension that existed the last 5 or 6 years with the Patriots organization, whether it be Gronk's departure, Brady's departure, Belichick's last 4 years here. It was nice to see, and I'm sure to a degree some of it was staged, but it was nice to see them come together, have a laugh at each other's expense, have some drinks, and really, in my opinion, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this, Mike, close the book on the dynasty. Part of me felt last night like that brought some closure to this golden age of Patriots football. I don't know if you feel that way about it.
So for me, maybe not necessarily closure, but what I loved, John, was once Bill Belichick spoke and he sat there next to Julian and Randy and Drew and Tom, like it felt like, yeah, we went through a lot of hard things together. And honestly, Bill, like at times we wanted to like tell you to go F off, and I'm sure you wanted to tell us to do that at times. But you know what? Like we were in it together and now we can reminisce, tell stories, laugh, poke fun at each other, allow others to poke fun at us and laugh at ourselves. That part I thought specific to Bill and the players, that did stand out to me.
I thought Bledsoe stood out as well. That's a guy who, now granted, he might have already had a couple of glasses of that wine, and I think you could tell, but his humor, I think he was the most sort of natural to do this. I thought he stood out, and I thought Bill was outstanding. The line about Alex Guerrero might have been the line of the night. Just again, it was all stuff that it felt like it was off limits for so long, and it wasn't. I think that's what made it as good as it was.
Yeah, just that nobody held back. It was awesome. Like, it was just such a good night. Like it felt like just friends like ribbing each other at a wedding or something like that. I mean, it had that celebratory feel, and there was there was nothing that was off limits, and I thought that was really the best part of it.
So, what would be your 3 favorite moments or lines of the night?
So I was thinking when Kevin mentioned Alex Guerrero, do we need to tell people that are watching this, just in case they didn't see it, what the line was that Bill got up there and said, people said that I butted heads with Tom Brady. And yeah, that might have been true, but it was sort of hard to do because his head was so far up Alex Guerrero's.
Yeah, that was so funny.
John, do we need to do that? I don't know.
I mean, you might as well look. This is, in theory, this is a family show, but let's just go all in. If we're going to talk about this roast, we're all in.
The other one I liked, I don't know about 3, but the one that I liked a lot was when Belichick was talking about the Apple one.
Yeah, the documentary.
Oh, that was so funny. That was
little zinger.
Yeah, I thought that was really good.
I liked so I mean, I thought probably the most audible laugh I had was when he was Bill was, and that was my favorite. So when he was talking to Gronk and everyone's like, we know Belichick saying, do your job, right? Just like, please don't do your job. And to your point, Kevin, about like Drew and Gronk, like those guys are like, I thought they showed like they're good guys, like they can poke fun at themselves, and so that would be one for me, John, that when he said that to Gronk. And then I love Bill's line about, people will ask, who was the most responsible.
Oh, that was great.
Was it me? Was it Brady? Was it me? Was it Brady? The truth, it was both of us because of me. So well delivered. I just thought it was just like well delivered.
It was.
Well,
I got to tell you, the thing I love about Bill in this capacity is that he didn't show this side to us very much the last few years, especially after Spygate. But, he's really letting his guard down now, and you're really seeing it. We rarely saw it. I mean, Mike, you've been covering this team all the way through. Adam, you covered them for a good portion of his career here. In the short time that Kevin and I have been covering them, and I was around the team in the first part of the dynasty when I used to do radio at 1510, but you didn't really see that side of him often. You might get it on a Friday where he would come in, smile, how's everyone doing? But it's great to see it now because he's got that dry wit, that sense of humor, his delivery. He's a tremendous storyteller. I could listen to him tell football stories all day, but it's great to see that side of him now.
Yeah, and I think the other part of it is I feel like if you're reading articles and books and tweets and everything like that, you get the feeling that these people like hate each other, but they don't. And you get to see them in a way where they're going up against each other, but also having fun, and it's like it's all in good. So I thought that was a good part of it.
Real quick, two other things that stood out to me. One was hearing Robert Kraft swear. I don't think I've ever heard that before in my entire life. So that kind of came out of nowhere. I do think the toast was a little awkward. The second one between just Bill and Robert. The one with Gronk was what it was. But that felt like Bill was still a little uneasy. And then the other thing, too, was Brady's line about Spygate. Saying Roger Goodell, he could have just gave me the 20 mil and I would have said I did it. That came out of nowhere, too. And again, was just another thing that has felt off limits for so long. And it wasn't. I mean, we could point to almost any part of this, and I think all of it stood out. A few of the, quote unquote, normal comedians, they were okay. Most of them were pretty good, but the football stuff to me was, it was better than the Apple documentary, in my opinion, just because it was more human, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I tend to agree. Yeah, I am a fan of roasts. I thought they were a little over the top with the vulgarity, though. I thought it was a bit much.
I couldn't believe they got away with what they got away with.
Yeah,
that's
it's good to see, but
the ones that are made by that same sort of cast of characters, like Jeff Ross and all those guys. Those are what those roasts are like for the most part. So you have to have a please don't get offended.
It's not for me. And Mike, I kind of get the feeling you're probably going to agree with me. It's not so much an offense thing as much as is it necessary. There was so much good material there last night. Like Brady taking a jab at the Bills about, what kind of mafia are you? You don't even have a ring. Or his jab at the Chiefs and Chiefs fans. Like people would love it if it was just that. We didn't need to get into Gronk's genitalia or some of the stuff that was said about Giselle. I thought was a little off-putting too. Am I being a prude here, Mike? I mean, what do you think?
Well. So John, here's what I would say. Like, I actually feel the same way you do, but I'm not going to stand in judgment because I realize that if everyone did it the way I like it, it might be boring to others. Do you know what I mean? And so different strokes for different folks, for lack of a better term. I was good with just the pure football stuff. I thought there were parts of it that made me uncomfortable. And as a father, I was thinking to myself, like, if Tom's kids are listening to this, like, how's he going to explain this to them? That made me uncomfortable. But you know what? Like, that's my view. And like, I don't want to put that on anyone else. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, I don't feel like it's my place to say like, oh, that was appropriate or inappropriate. Like, that's sort of my view of it. But I took the parts that I liked from it and sort of highlight those.
Yeah, my three favorite lines, if you will, I love the Belichick line about the Apple documentary. I thought that was fantastic.
That was awesome.
A sneaky. I thought Julian Edelman was really good, and a sneaky good Edelman line was when he said the next time you're going to get this many Patriots in the same room as Robert Kraft's funeral. I thought that was.
Oh wow!
And to Kraft's credit, he laughed at it. I thought that was another highlight too when he called out Putin and said, "Give me my effing ring
Yeah,
back."
that was good. Yeah,
I thought that was good, and I thought the exchange between Julian and Bill was good. You know, of course, Julian does the impersonation of him, and then he proceeds to announce that the only job he could get is a job at Foxborough High School, to which I tweeted out, as far as I know, Jack Martinelli's coming back for not, for yet another year of leading the Warriors. But I wouldn't be surprised if Bill shows up at practice. Who knows with him? He's that much of a junkie that he probably will. But yeah, overall, I thought it was great. And I think in many ways, I think if you don't see it, kind of being the final chapter of the dynasty, I get that. I understand it. You'd think there'd be more to it than that. But I definitely think, if nothing else, it was great to see them all together. It was great to see them, bust each other's chops. And it was great to see them share a drink and be together again. It brought back a lot of good memories. I do want to ask you guys real quick before we move on, your thoughts on some of the Aaron Hernandez mentions and the jokes about Hernandez. I know that his girlfriend spoke to TMZ this morning, and she mentioned that she didn't appreciate it, didn't like it. Just some thoughts on that.
Not my favorite part, obviously, but I do feel like at a roast like this, it's like all bets are off in terms of what people talk about. So on that respect, I'm not totally surprised, but it is like, it's tough, man. It's tough with everything that happened with him. So, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I mean, again, like something like this, they're going to touch on everything.
Yeah, I'm with you. Look, it's a roast, so there's going to be some shock value with some of the jokes. Frankly, I wasn't offended by any of it. I loved it. But Brady's 9/11 joke, if that was out of nowhere. So look, if you're gonna have that type of stuff, you got to know it comes with the territory with a roast. So I was surprised. I didn't love it, but again, it's a roast. You have to expect the unexpected, and there's going to be some shock value there as well.
So full disclosure, guys, I Googled what makes a good roast because I have to be honest. I've never really been to a roast, and one of the things I read was look, it creates tension and, gives you unexpected, shock value. So to your question, John, that's what I thought about that particular topic. Okay, that's what, when you sign up to do this at this level, to Adam's point, everything's fair game.
Yeah, everything's on the table. And look, I can understand her reacting the way she did, but ultimately you had to know it was going to come because there's a certain level of one-upmanship here too, right? With these roasts where they try to one-up each other. And going back to Brady, I thought he was terrific. I know a lot of people made a lot about when he stepped up to Jeff Ross, rather, I should say, and asked him to knock it off after he made the massage reference in Kraft. I know a lot of people took that seriously, but Ross was on with Rich Eisen today, and he basically said that he wasn't mad at me. He was just busting my chops. He wasn't really mad. We know his relationship with Robert Kraft. It's well documented. It truly is a father-son type relationship. So, I mean, it's not that surprising that he would do what he did, but I also don't think he did it as a way to put Jeff Ross on notice. You are watching / listening to the New England Football Show presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Saranitas. This week, we are joined by ESPN's Mike Reiss. Just as a reminder, if you are looking to sell your current home or purchase your first home, give our good friend Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846, or you can email him at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. All right, Mike, we're going to pivot here. And, of course, it was we found out this afternoon, I should say, from CBS Sports' Jonathan Jones, that the Patriots have begun the process of looking for a general manager, even though they may not have that title. Two-part question here for you. One, just your thoughts on that, and two, is there anything else that you may have heard in regards to that process and where they're at?
So, John, I think it's pretty consistent with what they've said, specifically Robert Kraft in March at the NFL annual meeting. He said going forward with Elliott Wolf and the young staffers that have been here. And then afterwards, they'll interview some people and make a decision from there. And I've looked at it this way. Elliott Wolf would have had to have bombed in the draft and free agency for him not to be the incredibly strong favorite to have this job. But they have to go through a process where they talk to other people. And that includes following NFL guidelines. There's certain things that you have to do in an interview process that the league documents to make sure that you're talking to a diverse group of candidates. And I think for the team, that can be a great process to go through, because even if these people don't get the job, they're people you can develop a relationship with. And who knows, down the line, they might come work for you in a different capacity or whatever. So to answer it long answer short, I'd be shocked if it isn't Elliott Wolf in the same structure when all is said and done. But I think it's an important process to go through for the team and for the people interviewing, because it's a chance for them to get exposure to the people within the Patriots organization.
In your understanding of it, it's been a couple, well, it hasn't been that long, but how do you feel the team feels about how it drafted? How do they feel about that process?
Solid, Adam. I think they feel really good about it. You know, what they did. 7 out of the 8 picks were on offense. Thorough with the quarterbacks specifically, because that being the most important position. And so I think as much as they can do up to this point, I feel like they're accomplishing their goals. Not perfect, but they had, pivot, adjust. That I think every team, no team goes in and says, we want this, and gets it. Right? Like, yeah. But I think overall, I think they feel pretty like they're in pretty good place right now.
Mike, before the draft, when Elliott talked to us at that pre-draft press conference, he was asked, and it might have been by you or Tom Curran, if he felt like he was, in a job interview, for lack of a better term. Do you feel like he actually, and he answered, he said no, he hadn't really, thought of it that way. One, do you believe him? Because I feel like he had to have felt one way or another that he was being watched, for lack of a better term, during the process. Do you believe him that he didn't feel that way? And two, if you're him, I guess, are you maybe not bitter, but kind of questioning why you had to go through this process in the first place? Or is it just, hey, this is what it is, and let me put my best foot forward?
So Kevin, it was Tom Curran of NBC Sports Boston who asked him that. I think it was the first question almost out of the shoot in that news conference. If I was Elliott Wolf, I think I would be looking at it this way. If they're giving me the keys to the team with all this cap space, all this cash to spend, and the number 3 overall pick in the draft, they have a lot of confidence in me that I can do the job. And as long as I don't F it up, I'm going to be the choice when all is said and done. And understand, like, his dad was Ron Wolf. I mean, he grew up in the NFL. He understands the way this process works, and that teams can't just say, you're our guy. Like, we have to have a formal process. So I would be shocked if he was like upset or viewed it as any bit of a slight toward him, as much as like excited for the opportunity to move forward. Kevin, I'd really be surprised if it's not him when all is said and done.
Yeah, I would be too. And let's not forget, of course, the Patriots do have to go through the process. They do have to interview external candidates. So that is a part of this here. But I agree with you, Mike. I think when the dust settles, he'll be the guy. You don't give him the keys to the car and let him drive it as much as he has this offseason if he's not going to be the guy. You don't allow him to make arguably the most important draft choice in franchise history at pick 3 with Drake May. You don't allow him to spend the money that he did in free agency. Ultimately, they had enough faith in him that he could do that and he could lead this front office and that he could be the guy long term. They just needed to go through the process. Now, it is important to point out, though, that there are some contracts that are expiring here within that front office. What do you know about that, Mike? And what are your thoughts on what we can expect in that regard?
It's a good question, John. I actually don't know who specifically that would be, but I would say not only what they let Elliot Wolf do, they also let him hire Alonzo Highsmith, his right-hand man. So when you think about that, like that's another tell as to, how they're thinking. But Matt Groh, who was sort of like the public voice of the personnel department the last couple years, I actually think I hear good things like that. They feel like even though he was sort of, I don't want to say demoted, but you'd say Elliot jumped up over him, right? Like in this thing, I think he would be one that I would be curious what he wants to do. So I think if he wants to stay, I'm assuming if his contract's up, I don't know that, guys, but if he wants to stay, I think they feel like it's been a good transition, but he might not want to, because when you're in that position and someone jumps over you, so that would be an unknown to me, John, with Matt Groh. Cameron Williams, who, if you watch some of the videos on the Patriots website in the draft room, he was the one on the phone calling the players when they were getting picked by the team. So he's a riser. He's Brent Williams' son. Remember the former Patriot? Yeah. And he is a riser. So I think
he played for his dad at Catholic Memorial.
Yeah.
So he's in this mix, Adam. So Matt Groh, Cameron Williams, Alonzo Highsmith, thinking about like some of the Patrick Stewart, a senior football advisor. This is sort of the new regime here. I don't want to leave anyone out. I honestly, to answer your question, I don't know whose contract's up, but I think if they could keep it together, that would be my thought. Like they sort of like what they have right now.
I'm curious. Now, this is just sort of a different way of looking at it, but how does somebody like Cam Williams move up so fast? Like I assume in the scout world, it's identifying a player who turns out to be really good. But I remember Cam was a great linebacker at CM and went to Ohio State, and he seemed like he really quickly moved into that role with the Patriots. How does he move so quickly? What did he do right?
I love this stuff, Adam. I'm pulling out the hard copy of the media guide. So I keep it nearby.
Nice.
I'm old school. Everyone does it.
I love that thing.
I'm a paper guy. I still love the paper. I still get the Globe delivered to my house.
Nice.
Awesome.
All right. So here's what we got, Adam. I'm going to just read it just so we have it. So he's this is going to be his 9th season with the team. And he's the college scouting director. And he was an area scout before that.
Wow.
No, he was a national scout, then an area scout, and a scouting assistant. So for those who are watching this that are curious, like baseball, when you go from single A to double A, or
yes.
Low A, high A, double A, triple A majors, right?
Yeah, right.
So that's what the scouting is. You start as a scouting assistant, do like the lowest level scouting stuff. Then they elevate, they like your work. Oh, look, he's thorough. He's on the ball. You're now an area scout. You're responsible for an area of the country. Write up the reports. Yeah. Now, oh, wow, you're really good. You're now a national scout. We're going to send you all over the country. You're really good. Now you're going up to a director. So you're going to oversee, these scouts. And like, he's impressive. He's an impressive guy. Like, yeah. I believe like, you see like people write about like future general managers or future, like,
yeah.
I think he'll be on those lists as he gets more experience.
That's so awesome. That's awesome.
Mike, this is actually a nice segue. And I'm not even sure if you'll have an answer for me, but there's 2 guys on the staff, 2 lower level guys, and Vinny DePalma and Kobe Tippett, 2 local kids, obviously. I'm curious what you know about, what their roles are, and I'm hoping to ask Gerard at some point, but just in case, what do you know about what they're doing? I happened to run into Vinny a couple weeks ago at BC, and He was like a kid in a candy store working for Gerard. But I'm just curious what you know about their role specifically.
So it's Kevin, it's the same thing we were talking about with Cameron and scouting. They're starting at the lowest level in coaching. So they're coaching assistants. And I think Kobe's like special teams is like, I believe his specialty, maybe a little bit on defense if they need help. And I think Vinny would be defense. So it's really like wherever the coordinator, Jeremy Springer for special teams, DeMarcus Covington for defense, wherever they need help, support, like those guys fill in. And it's the lowest. I mean, it's literally at the bottom and work your way up. So analogy for us, Adam, at the newspaper, that would be working Friday nights, high school football season. Hey guys, taking in the calls on the desk, typing in the box scores, and doing the rewrites until our boss, Craig Larson, or Mark Murphy or Russ Lodi said, "Hey kid, why don't you give it a shot? Go out and cover a game."
Yeah.
Don't forget Art Davidson too.
Art you know what I mean? And it's like you're trying to work your way up, right? To do anything you can to help the newspaper have the best section, and then you get the call to go cover a game. It's sort of a weird answer, but you get my point, Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mike, obviously it's been it's been an off season of turnover, but before I do want to get your thoughts on the draft in a little bit more depth, but just some thoughts on Gerard Mayo and how do you think it's gone with him so far? Obviously, from our standpoint, it's been a totally different vibe in terms of how the organization is communicating with us, how Gerard has been communicating with us. What are your thoughts so far on the job that Gerard Mayo has done this offseason?
So, John, it's so interesting to me because it's so different, right? And I think you get so conditioned to one way for 24 years. And so I'm curious how it's going to go. I don't know how anyone in our position could really judge anything right now. We haven't seen that much. It seems to me, John, like if I had to say, like, he's trying to institute a culture, a different culture. I'm curious. That's all I can say. Players seem to are responding to it in the sense of like, I think he's trying to show them that he cares about them before he really demands a lot, as like that. And I think his view is like, that's the way to do it with this era of players. And like, as an older person, it's a little bit different for me to adjust to that. I'm trying to keep my mind open to, hey, maybe my view of the old school coach and that's the way to do it. Maybe I'm outdated and I need to be open-minded. So that's what I'm trying to do as I watch this unfold. Does that make any sense, John?
It makes total sense. I think you're 100% right. I think as a coach of almost 30 years, I can see his vision and what he's trying to do. And I think you just hit 1,000-foot home run. He's trying to establish a culture. It's not going to be business as usual. He keeps referencing Bill, but I think he's referencing him strategically in certain spots. But I definitely agree with you. And again, I've been around the team a much shorter time than you have. From what I'm seeing, I think you're 100% right. I think it's all about this offseason. It's about establishing a culture and laying the foundation for what he wants to do moving forward.
Mike, I want to ask you about this because you've been covering the team a long time. And even before that, you followed the team. But it's so different what we've got right now to what we were accustomed to for the last 20 years. How do you does it feel different? How does it feel to cover a team that's really struggling as opposed to a team that is really, really always in the AFC Championship game and Super Bowls and all that?
So, Adam, there's a couple different ways to answer it. I mean, the first I always sort of like lightheartedly answer, like the seasons are shorter.
Yeah.
Like you used to work till like early to mid-February, like a given. And like, I always was amazed at that with Tom Brady. Like, talk about he played 23 years in the NFL or, whatever his year, but he really played plus 3 seasons
Yeah.
because of all those playoff games.
Right.
So Adam, in that sense, like when you recover a team that's not winning at that level, like that sense, it's easier. Like you're not on the road in January, like wondering if you're going to get out of Denver because there's you know what I mean? Like so you're fresher. And there's not, for me, there's not as much demands on the TV side from ESPN when the team isn't as good.
Right.
Because you're talking about 32 teams. You want to talk about the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I would say that part is different. But what is the same, whether you win or lose, is like John and Kevin are down there all the time. Like you got to come, build relationships with the coaches, the players, treat them with the same respect and professionalism, whether they're winning or losing, and report the same, you know what I mean? The fundamentals is what I'm trying to say. The fundamentals of what we do are the same no matter the level of success.
Right.
Mike, you mentioned the team kind of not being, I guess, as interesting, for lack of a better term. But when Drake May was introduced last Friday, or maybe 2 Fridays ago, I've lost track, there was fans lined up outside the gate, and there was a buzz around the stadium that I hadn't felt in 2 years being down there. And again, it's only day one. It's his first day. But just May in general, the hope that pick brings. Can you feel that as well? Like, is that a tangible thing that this franchise can kind of build on throughout OTAs here and throughout rookie minicamp and all that?
So, Kevin, we were, I want to say like late March, the Patriots had a season ticket member draft party at the stadium. And I was up on the stage with Evan Lazar of Patriots.com, Devin McCourty, Mike Dussault of Patriots.com, Nicole Yang of the Boston Globe, and we were up, and Jonas Gray, the former Patriots running back. And before we went on, they were looking at me and they go, Mike, you've been to like 20 of these things. You're like the old guy in this. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm the old guy now. And then we get up on stage, Kevin, and I literally said this. I go, they're at pick 3. I said, these quarterbacks, nothing's a given with them, but they remind me, or this situation reminds me of 1993. Drew Bledsoe, number 1 pick. It just gives the organization hope for the future. It gives them a chance. And I made that analogy on the stage, and I'm thinking to myself, 1993. Oh my God, that was 31 years ago. Like I am the old guy. Do you know what I mean? But you all, I mean, John, you lived it. Like, do you remember that? And I know that was as much Parcells. Take nothing away from Parcells, but when Drew was that number 1 pick, it felt like you had a chance.
I'll never forget seeing on the news the reports of people lining up to buy season tickets when they hired Parcells. And then 3 months later, they draft Bledsoe. And I mean, the season ticket demand went through the roof. And it does, to Kevin's point, it does reinvigorate the franchise. It gives you hope again. We took it for granted because Tom Brady was here for 20 years and he was great for 20 years. And you didn't have to worry about the quarterback position. That was locked in. But then all of a sudden he leaves. You get a year of Cam Newton. You're like, oh, wait, this is the other side of things. And then you draft Mac Jones. And I think there was hope there with Jones. I mean, I know that it didn't end well with Mac, but people were hopeful that he was the next guy. It didn't work out. But this I think, is next level hope with Drake May.
I feel that way, guys. And to your point, John, about Mac, I just listened to like Brian Hoyer, who was here that first year, and what he said. And like, I really felt like that was hope. But this Drake is like physical traits wise, like the upside with Drake is even higher than what I would have said with Mac.
Yeah, no question. So with that being said, what is your timetable for him to play? Because that's been debated. I asked Gerard about that after they made the pick on Thursday night. What should the timetable be for Drake May to play?
So it's interesting. I feel strongly about it. I personally, I know why we talk about it. It's interesting. I just think like you don't put a timetable on it. Like, that's the way I feel. It's like, obviously you want him to play. He's a number 3 pick, but if he doesn't play, like, that's why Jacoby's here. And you can do damage to him if you put him out there either before he's ready, or if you got too many, like leaking holes on your ship. Like, we don't know if they can block at left tackle, guys. Like, there's a part of me that's like, if we watch this in camp and it looks terrible, I mean, there's a part of me that says, wait, like, you're gonna do the kid more harm than good. So then there's another part of me that says, if he gets out there and clearly shows he's the best quarterback, you owe it to the rest of the team to play him, right? So I think that to me is the balance. And I want to see what it looks like in camp without coming blindly and saying he has to play day one because he's the number 3 pick. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me, guys. But we can agree to disagree if you feel really strongly about it, one way or the other.
Mike, how much of it is, if they start off 0-4 with Brissett, then they're going to feel so much pressure to put him in, even if he's not ready?
Adam, there will be pressure.
Yeah.
And to me, that comes back to culture and leadership. And you have to be convicted and say, as much as I understand, as much as you want to see him, like, we think we'd be doing him more harm than good. And you gotta, but that's hard to do when if you're looking for your first win. Like, and so that's a clear, like, that is a hypothetical I've thought about,
Mike, we'll get our first look at these guys this weekend, I believe Saturday. First day of rookie minicamp is Friday. Two-parter for me. One, how excited are you to watch him and Joe Milton just go back and forth? I know that's what I'm looking forward to the most. And then Javon Baker, the receiver from, I'm drawing a blank right now.
Central Florida.
Jesus. He's made quite a bit of noise, to say the least, since being drafted. I think they need a kid like this, the swagger, the confidence. They haven't had a guy like that at the position in a while. What are you looking to see from him on Saturday as well? And just all these kids in general.
So start with the quarterback. Like, first of all, Kevin, I get so excited. Like, that's why I love coming on talking to you guys about football. Like, get to watch football on May 11th, like, I know it's not football, but it's close enough, right? Like, so super excited to just be there and to watch it all, I think for the Drake stuff, like, just to watch the way he throws the ball. So, like, I think about first impressions over the years. I'll never forget, like, the first route I watched Deion Branch run in 2002, second-round pick out of Louisville. And I was like, whoa, I haven't seen something like that. You know what I mean? Like, or like even Randy Moss when he came in 2007, his first training camp practice, and he just ran. And he left everyone behind. And you're like, what was that? So I think for all of them, I just want to see if anything like that, stands out to me. And on Baker, to be honest, Kevin, on this one, I'm curious if he tones it down. Like, did they tell him to tone it down, or does he double down? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that will tell us a little bit about the culture and, do they even care? If someone,
No, I was sorry to interrupt. I was going to say, we're worried about Mayo there too. Because if he is sort of tamed down a little bit, I think we'll know that he was talked to. But if he's the same kid, well, then I think we can kind of know and learn, hey, this really is a different regime.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, you don't want to take the edge off of a player like Baker. You want him to be himself. He's a 3-level playmaker. He can be the most impactful skill player you've had around here potentially since Randy Moss. But at the same time, you want it to be what I call controlled swagger. I used to tell my guys that when I coached all the time, controlled swagger. I want you to be confident. I want you to play confident. But there's a fine line between being confident and idiotic. If you start committing penalties and drawing 15-yarders and you start complaining about your usage and not getting the ball, now you're not a team guy anymore. You're not playing within the team structure. So I think that I'm sure once Gerard gets a read on him, if he feels necessary to have that conversation, he will. Now, the one benefit that I think Gerard's going to have is he played the game at a high level. He played at Tennessee, played in the NFL. So he's going to be able to relate to these guys. Not that Bill wouldn't have, because Bill's arguably the greatest coach of all time. But I do think, and you referenced this earlier, Mike, I do think that player coach matters today. Relatability matters. And so I think that it will be impactful if Mayo says to him, hey, rein it in a little bit. I think coming from a guy that's been there, I think will certainly help in that regard. Mike, before we let you go, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the documentary. You obviously lived all of that. I just wanted your thoughts on that. Do you think that it painted the Patriots in the right light? Do you think it portrayed Bill Belichick in the right way? Just some overall thoughts on it.
So when I finished it, John, I think the question I asked myself is, what was the purpose? Like, and I really enjoyed the first couple episodes. Like, I thought Tom Brady's roommate, David Nugent, with that old video camera walking through the condo in Franklin, saying this is where Tom lived when he bought it from Ty Law. This was our Tecmo Bowl. Like, that was the stuff that I thought was great. And to be honest, like as the series progressed, I thought it got away from the stuff that I really was excited about and looked forward to, and didn't leave me with the best feeling when it was all said and done.
Yeah. No, I would agree. And I think that people universally agree with that sentiment, that it started off strong. There was a lot of great nostalgia there, and the rise of Tom Brady, and obviously Bledsoe getting hurt and him usurping him as the starter. But it really did. I agree with you. I thought one of my biggest issues, and we talked about this as well, is that they left so many key elements to the story out. The fact that you don't even reference the 21-game winning streak is unbelievable to me. And I get it. And I agreed with Benedict in that it wasn't going to be the road to glory. I mean, if you wanted to relive the Super Bowl runs and go back and watch the DVDs, I tend to agree with his sentiment there. But I just thought they left too many things out, because I think that they wanted to sensationalize what happened during that run more than they wanted to present it, at least in my opinion. I don't know if you saw it that way.
And John, I think that gets to my question. By the end of it, I was asking, what was the purpose? Because I was like, okay, maybe they were trying to appeal to a wider audience than just the Patriots follower or fan. And I sort of finished and I said, geez, if that's the case, I wish I knew that going in, because my expectation had been a little bit high, going into it, based on the way I don't want to pin it on, but the way it was presented, so that was my thought by the end of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And final question here, Mike, just some thoughts as we head into the remainder of the offseason, we get closer to training camp. Just some early thoughts. Schedule release, I believe, is this Thursday night. Some thoughts on 2024, and what are your expectations for this football team?
So I love the question, John, because I've thought about it a lot. Like, I think the Patriots are in the lower quarter of the league. Just have to be honest about it. And I am going to judge this season similar to the analogy I made with Kevin with the quarterbacks, like 1993. So they were 5-11 that season, if I remember. But I think they won their last 4 games, or they were playing. What I remember most was they were playing their best football by the end of the year. And it was coming up. You could tell with Bledsoe and Parcells, they were on the incline. And that's what my expectation for the season. Like, I expect struggles, because I don't think they're as good as the majority of teams in the league right now. But can they build a foundation and go like this to spark hope for the future? And that's my sort of no holding back, honest view of what would make this a successful season. And some might say I'm too easy on them, but I just think relative to the teams I see around the league and the rosters, like, that's where they are right now, and that's my view of it.
No, and I think you bring up a great point comparing them to those teams of the early 90s, because, like you said, they went 5-11, made the playoffs, missed the playoffs, AFC Championship game and Super Bowl. You hope that by year 4 of Drake May being your starter, that you're now a Super Bowl contender. Because one of the things that we forget is we get so hyper-focused on Bledsoe. Parcells not only added a lot of pieces over the course of the next 3 years that helped get that group to a Super Bowl, but those guys were integral pieces to the first part of the dynasty, the Ty Laws, the Willie McGinnis, the Ted Johnsons, the Teddy Bruschi's. So I think that, to your point, patience is the key, right? I think Patriot fans are going to need to be patient because if they do it right with Drake May and they continue to surround him with the right pieces, you can get back there again. But as you know, it is a process. Mike, I want to say thank you for taking the time, my friend. It's great to see you. We appreciate the time, and we appreciate what you do for us. You're always, supporting us and positive with us, and you give us a chance to watch you work as well, which helps us get better at our craft. So we appreciate the time, my friend.
Well, so John, right back at you. Like I love the passion that you guys show. I see like Kevin at like BC Pro Day, and then he's over here covering another game, and then he's down at the Patriots. I see you getting in there at the Patriots, asking questions where I'm like, I wish I thought of that. Like a good, like very scheme oriented, technical. Adam and I go way back, covered like we went through the same thing. Adam, I wish I had my old my TRS 80, the old trash 80.
Yeah.
We used to use.
That's our West Daily News.
Yeah. So wait, stay right there. I'm gonna grab it. But before I grab it, don't log off yet. John, can you see the questions, John, on the side there that people are asking?
Yes.
So I want to make sure that if someone's watching and has a question that I ask it, but I want to go get the TRS 80 to show. So hold on one sec.
Sure. Yeah, Ken checks in. Thanks for checking in, Ken. Question, Mike, what's your opinion on Joe Milton's role on this team? So we'll ask Mike.
Oh, no.
Look at
Adam,
that.
Incredible.
Adam and I filed stories on this baby.
Yeah, we did.
Mike,
Yeah.
you're not going to believe this.
Yeah.
But Rich Thompson from the Boston Herald actually told me about one of those like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I was talking to him about being part of the Metro West. I had never seen one until right now.
Unbelievable. Kevin, some of the best memories getting sent to a game on a Friday night. You're in the press box. You got like a deadline to get it in the paper. What would it be? Like 11, 10:30, 11, whatever.
Maybe because
And
you might have to go back and do a page.
But I mean, I remember banging it in and trying to like send it through the, calling the number, fax beep, you know what I mean? And then sending it in. But on the question that Ken asked, Joe Milton. So I look at it like 6th-round pick, 193rd overall, if I have the number right off the top of my head. He asked, like, what's his role? I think you see what it looks like. And if it looks like he shows enough to protect him where you don't want to put him on waivers, be the 3rd quarterback. And I think I heard Gerard Mayo mention this in an interview. I forget where it was, but he talked about like they're going to face quarterbacks over the season that have a similar profile, and he'll be a great scout team quarterback for them. So 3rd quarterback, scout team. And if it doesn't look good and he's trying to hit Baker on the out route, but he ends up hitting Kevin, who's watching, taking notes over on the side, maybe he ends up on the practice squad, right? And then you have like Bailey. So we'll see what it looks like. But that would be the thought on Joe Milton.
And Ken follows up with appreciate what you gentlemen do for sure. Thanks for checking in, Ken. We appreciate your time as well. Well, Mike, like I said, thanks again. Really appreciate your time. And let's do this again down the road.
Absolutely, guys. Keep doing what you're doing. I love it.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. You're the man.
All right. That'll do it for this week's episode of the New England Football Show. For Kevin, Adam, and our guest this week, Mike Reiss, I'm John Serenitas. Till next week. Peace.